Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Northern League Championship brought to you by El Giganten, Corsair, Telia, and MasterCard. My name is HitBrain, and I am joined by Trouble, Goldborg, and Ex-Scoundrel on the desk. As you can see, a little bit of a switcheroo here on the desk. We've got Ex-Scoundrel coming in to break down some of our games today. How do you feel with the old switcheroo on the desk, mate?
Mate, I'm already like 5 heads, so don't worry about it. I got it.
So let's have a little chat about yesterday, because obviously yesterday in the Northern League Championship, we actually had a few upsets, but were maybe a little bit for a few people, maybe didn't predict it. Me and Goldborg, we did get a prediction right on Dusty, but Team Singularity getting a win over Nordavind, really, really big there.
And in all honesty, I'm just not surprised. I was just waiting for the balloon to blow up, right? And it did. Individually, they just popped off because they have been playing these sort of compositions where they need to individually pop off. And they showed here how far their skill cap goes. And you know what? The ceiling is not reached yet, I don't think, for this team. I enjoyed their playstyle. I think they have actually found the playstyle for a long time now that suits them. It's the more aggressive, let's play for scare me picks type of style. But I felt like they sort of rounded it up with some extra macro movement in there as well.
I completely agree with Trouble here. I really think that Singularity started to get the ball rolling here. And I think one of the teams that did it as well was actually M&M. They did not secure a win, and the situation is still looking dire for M&M, but they looked a lot better than had done in any previous game. So I'm curious to see how they're going to perform later.
Yeah, and with Singularity specifically, that was do or die for them yesterday. They had another chance today, but it's taken the pressure off them now. It was a game that they really needed to win. They needed to win at least one this week, and that's a great start for Singularity now coming back into a very precarious position in the standings.
In all honesty, I think that the only thing that does concern me is that when we had the interview with Only 35, he even seemed surprised that they won. So I'd like to see a little bit more, just a little bit more faith in their ability, because they did show that the champions they chose, they individually outskilled their opponents. And we're talking about a Nordavind that was second in the standings and was threatening for top 1 even in the groups. So if you are able to outskill these opponents, then you're chasing playoffs basically.
So what does Singularity need to kind of improve, Trouble, to continue to upset the ladder? Because obviously they got their first win. There is still potential for them to make it up into the playoffs. So what do they need to continue to do?
I mean, a couple of macro mistakes here and there. We're talking wave management. We're talking about very tiny things. But the first thing, the most important, is just confidence. Have confidence in yourself and in your teammates in executing these compositions, because they are extremely hard to do. And when you're outplaying your opponent, there is the possibility to do it. They did it. They showed it. Today, they have another chance later on. I'm just waiting to see.
And I mean, they weren't the only team that had an upset yesterday. It was Dusty as well getting their win. I mean, me and Goldborg were quite excited about this. Goldborg, maybe you can dive into this a little bit more. The Dusty win, what does this mean for Dusty right now?
Well, obviously, before we get into that, both me and you, buddy, we knew that was not upset. That was coming. Okay. Denmark lost, all right? So we lost to the former Denmark, if we can say it like that. Obviously, Iceland now reigning their own country perfectly. No need to get into politics, but they had looked extremely shaky. So I understand why people was calling this an upset. And reason for this was that Dusty is still one of these teams that plays kind of complicated team fight composition. Not even team fight composition, but just compositions in general. Yesterday, we did see that their team composition did not even look like the better one. It was really easy for Trick, even though they did not play the best kind of League of Legends, to get back into these games. And had it not been for the individual performance coming in from Chell, it might have been really hard for Dusty even to secure that win. Obviously, with that win, they look way better in Group A and can look like kind of staggering away from the relegation that they could have been worried about. And now they are potentially looking to get up and contest for playoffs.
And I'm loving the fact that you highlighted Chiln, because for me, this is the core player of the team. If he does well, Dusty seems to do really well as well. But Legion stepped up. We've been waiting to see him pop off. We're like, oh, well, he plays LeBlanc. He can pop off on the LeBlanc. What else can he do? I feel like the 3-man shockwave that he was able to pull off on the 2v5 was very, very crucial for them to clean up plays.
Yeah, I was definitely sold on a few more players from Dusty coming out of that game. It was a really, really fun one to cast. It was a really, really fun one to watch. But let's have a little look at the standings and see how everything kind of falls as the dust settles from yesterday. Standing over at the top of Division A is BTXL, 5-1 apiece. Nordavind, fresh off their loss to Team Singularity, 4-2. Then we have ENCE and Riddle tied up. Godsend, 2-4. And Team Singularity 5-1. Let's have a little look over on Group B, see how everybody is facing up over there. Fnatic Rising are at the top, 6-0, undefeated. Then it's Munster and Tricked, 4-2 tied apiece. Then Barrage and Dusty also tied, and M&M, the only team here who have been unable to pick up a win.
I'm glad you mentioned Fnatic, Jake, because they have, I believe, secured playoffs now. So at 6-0 with the current state of Group B, Fnatic are now secured to at least make it into a playoff position, which means they are in a comfortable spot to potentially then fight for that European Masters slot that we have going in the NLC. We have 2 of them. Fnatic have looked absolutely dominant, though. I mean, talking to the players, talking to teams through interviews, it's been quite clear that Fnatic has been placed on a pedestal above even BTXL in the rest of the NLC. They look like the real deal. They've continued the strength that they've shown from previous splits, and I think they are the team to beat in our entire competition.
And from here on out, I love that you mentioned EU Masters, because for me, I think this is the walk in the park for Fnatic so far, right? They've been smashing the competition. They've been so good at what they do, but now their eye should be set on what you mentioned, the EU Masters, and how can they beat teams, the top teams from other regions. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Fnatic from here on out to be trying new things, coming in with some spice in their compositions.
What does this mean as far as the playoffs go, though? Let's talk a little bit more about what all of the individual groups. Where are we looking for players? Gulborg, I want to have a little chat to you about. Let's look mainly at Group A, because I feel like there's a lot more up in the air as far as Group A goes.
Yeah, to me, like, I want to take it to the bottom of the standings here, because I think that we got a pretty clear fight of the 4th place now. Singularity are in a position to be able to make a miracle run. And it really depends on them beating Godsend today. Godsend, obviously a team that has been looking a bit better than Singularity, but only with 2 games on the board versus Singularity on that one. So they actually have the opportunity of evening out the standings. And then after that, it's really close. You got Riddle on 3-3, you got ENCE on 3-3. So there's a lot of possibilities in Group A still available.
Yeah, and I actually really like that you brought up Riddle and ENCE, because that kind of bleeds into the battle for 2nd place, because there's a little bit of a gap between BTXL, not a huge one, but right now, Nordavind, Riddle, ENCE, Godsend, they are all still in the mix. And even Singularity, you know, if, like you said, if things swing their way, there is a wild scenario where we could see them doing really well as well. But, you know, Nordavind, Riddle, and ENCE all got their eyes set on that 2nd place in this group. I mean, Group A really is close, and even BTXL at 5-1 are not untouchable.
And I want to touch on that. I don't think BTXL are the clear favorite of the group. Sure, so far they've been able to pull out some wins, but they had also to pull out rabbits out of hats to get these wins. They weren't easy, they weren't clean, and in all honesty, Excandrel said there's a tiny gap between BTXL. That's literally what it is. It's a one-match scenario when it could turn around and BTXL could be ripped off of their throne.
And over in Group B as well, we look at teams like M&M. It is their last chance if they want to make playoffs. So Group B, while Fnatic obviously locked in and looking very, very solid, the rest of that group is also up in the air. I think that's fair to say realistically. So for M&M, they really need to get this win, otherwise they are looking at relegations.
Yeah, completely. If they need to get this win, not only to get out of relegation, but just to have any chance at getting up there in playoffs. But also, as you say, it is looking extremely unlikely. M&M not been looking the cleanest of the teams we've had, especially not in Group B. But they have a slight chance. We got Dusty at 2-4 and Barrage Esports at 2-4-2. So they might have a chance if they can get some wins down the back.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to just expand on that and really drill home the point that Gulborg mentioned. This is last chance saloon for M&M. Like, I think if you're looking at anything in Group B right now, that is probably one of the most influential things that we need to look at today. M&M need to get the win, or they are strictly out of the tournament. Like that, they are going into relegations. They are going towards that point where they have to defend their spot for the NLC. And that must be confidence shattering, especially for the rest of the season, but not only for fighting for your spot. So this is, you know, M&M's last chance to keep their hopes alive of even, I guess, even safety in this entire league.
On a more happy note, though, we have Monster and Tricked, and even though sure, Fnatic looks extremely dominant in that group, I feel like there's a new challenger rising. You know, Monster have been getting their things together. They've been looking better. Their macro looks great. Their individual performance looks great. Tricked showed that their ceiling is also really high, but they can also crack. Now, can these two teams stand up to the challenge and get into the top 4? Because I feel like from the first 2 weeks, when we were asking the players about the clear top 4, now we don't necessarily have one. I don't think we have a top 6 at this point to talk about. So everything is up for the grabs, and Monster and Tricked are looking like they're very hungry, and they will snatch the seat off of Fnatic if Fnatic slack off.
Yeah, I kind of want to expand on that a little bit, Trouble, actually, because you said the Trick, they lost to Dusty yesterday, obviously. That is a big loss for them, given what we've seen from Tricked in the past. So we've shown that they're not infallible. I think the way that we were thinking about Tricked coming into that matchup is they kind of were infallible. They looked very, very, very difficult to beat. Eren and Vezor had praise heaped on them to no end, but we started to see a couple of weaknesses, you know, in that Tricked roster just from that game yesterday. But also, Monster, do you remember that interview that we had with Hiva? I don't think that interview oozed confidence. I don't think that interview oozed like the feeling of a team that knows that they are top 2, top 3 secured. Monster have work to do, you know, and he talked a little bit about the way that they're not being decisive in their games, and he doesn't know why that is, but they're just not playing the way that they are playing off stage, on stage, and that is causing them to really struggle to show their full potential. Because we look at that roster, we've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks, the individual talent is astronomical, you know, even just in terms of the weight of their names, it's astronomical, even compared to the likes of BTXL and Fnatic. It's a comparable level of roster, but they're not hitting the same heights that those rosters are.
One of my favorite things about this league is actually how, like, obviously Fnatic are kind of in their own league where they're completely separate, undefeated, but there's still so much on the line. There's still playoffs potentially available for every team in the running. And today's matches actually can decide a lot here. So let's have a little look at today's schedule and see what we've got coming up here at the NLC. We'll be starting with Nordavind versus ENCE. Then it's Godsend versus Singularity. Game number 3 will be Riddle versus BTXL. And we'll be rounding the day out with Dusty versus M&M. I'm going to pass this over to you, Trouble. What game are you most excited for here?
Well, there might be 2. I'm excited because M&M are facing not the strongest opponent. So if there's a time to snatch a win and show that they can actually pull it off, this is it. But it would have to be definitely Nordavind ENCE. Come on. We saw ENCE fumble yesterday. I want to see them come back with the dynamic that they did have. You want to play Comfort Champions, do it, but do it convincingly. And on the other hand, ENCE has been in an upswing, right? They've been getting better and better. Their macro has been getting better. Their individual performances have been getting better. The players which we sort of didn't know what to expect from at the start, we now know that they can perform and they're very decisive. So I think this could be the moment that the second place is decided in this group.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be an interesting game too. To me, though, it's going to be down to the second game of the day, where it's actually Singularity against Godsend. To me, both these teams have had issues retaining that kind of playstyle that they want to. We all know what kind of champions they're going for, what their playstyle really wants to go for, but we are kind of having issues seeing how they tend to close out these games. They seem struggling, they make some fundamental mistakes, and I'm looking for one of these teams today to outshine the other.
Very quick from me, actually third game of the day. Riddle, Doxy recently posted on Twitter, you're about to see a Riddle reborn coming into this week. And also, we talked a little bit about XL. This is the chance for XL to extend the gap between them and the next best competition in Group A. And that will allow them to be as safe as Fnatic, realistically, finding that playoff spot. So that's the game that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, there's so much up in the air. We have 4 games to go today. So we are going to cut to a quick break. And when we are back, we'll be back with our first game of the day, Nordavind versus ENCE. This will be a doozy. See you in a second.
Ain't I mistaken? I've been here before. All my body is aching, shaking to the core. Wherever you go is a heaven, 7/24. Now don't go be misbehaving, but I'm craving a little more. Can't keep my thoughts inside, don't want no place to hide. Can't get you off my mind all night and day. You always played it cool, oh, but I ain't no fool. I know you feel it too, so what do you say? Well, I'ma give it a try, baby. Don't let the summer go by, baby. No, I don't wanna say goodbye, baby. Maybe we should give it a try. Why don't we give it a try? Ain't no mistaken, I'm taken with you. All my body is aching, awaken anew. Oh, I think I'm in heaven it's true. Now don't go misbehaving, but I'm caving over you. Oh, can't keep my thoughts inside, don't want no place to hide. Can't get you off my mind all night and day. Yeah, always playing it cool, oh, but I ain't no fool. I know you feel it too, so what do you say? Well, I'ma give it a try, baby. Don't let the summer go by, baby. No, I don't wanna say goodbye, baby. Maybe we should give it a try. I wanna think about every time you look at my way. I wanna make the most of this high, I wanna talk about every time you wanted to stay. I wanna make the most of this night, so what do you say? Why don't we give it a try, baby? Don't let the summer go by, baby. No, I don't wanna say goodbye, baby. Maybe we should give it a try. Why don't we give it a try?
Watching the world go by under the moonlit sky. It's the feeling, yeah, it's the feeling. Sun-kissed and having fun, ocean to summer sun. It's the feeling, yeah, it's the feeling. We know all ain't gonna change, and we know the stars will never.
Yeah, baby, let's go.
Look how quick this Baron is dying. Flipper has to make a miracle of steal. Can he do it? Yes, he can! Flipper steals the Baron! Legions will take it. Coming on, massive charm! Welcome to the bounce house Singularity as they are just cut through. Excel just walk away with it. He's looking for the big engage. That's a wombo combo to bring this player talent as the rain comes down. 2,600 health onto the Infernal Soul. Stevoy just going to launch him with the ultimate. He's able to steal away the dragon. Stevoy now doing his best to try and get away. The polymorph's on. He flashes away, but Chrisberg's able to secure the kill. In comes Mammoth with the Cyclone. The knockups for days. The Moonlight Vigil spreads. And Nordavind just walk through Godsend. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back as we're getting ready to go into our first game of the day. But before we have that, we actually do have our weekly raffle that is running through the remaining weeks here at the NLC. You have your chance to go vote for your favorite play of the day, and you can win yourself some cool prizes. For more information, go check out NLC LOL over on our social media channels. Now, guys, let's move on to our first matchup of the day. Nordavind taking on... I've already forgotten. ENCE, there we go. Completely had a brain fart. Excalibur, you wanted to talk a little bit about the jungle matchup, Nolty and Taiki here.
Yes, one of the things that I think was really exposed by Nordavind yesterday was the fact that Nolty seemed a little bit weak. You know, he seemed like he was the weak link in that roster. He was 0-4 at one point. He had very little impact on the map. And I think we've been constantly praising Taiki over the course of the last few weeks. I think he is the player that has really stood out for ENCE, and I think he's a really, really talented jungler. I think if you're going to go after Nordavind, I think you can go after them in the jungle, and that can sometimes cause them to unravel a little bit.
And in all honesty, I felt like it was a huge link that was missing for Nordavind yesterday. The fact that the jungle was falling behind that far, no other lane could snowball. For me, no other lane, picked up. No other lane wanted to be a hero. And after that ace over Singularity very early into the game, I'm like, it's done. It's over. Chrisberg with 3 kills. Are you kidding me? No one stepped up from Nordavind, and sure, maybe you can say we can fall back into our old ways and sort of be comfortable going into the late game and playing with a scaling comp, but it didn't work against Singularity. If it didn't work against Singularity, which is the weaker team on paper, now you're playing against ENCE. These guys have been picking up speed. You can't do that.
Yes, and talking about speed of ENCE, let's take a look at where they started. They were at the first week. It went horrible for them. The play that they tried to compose didn't work at all. The synergy wasn't there. The individual play from the bot lane wasn't there. And it all just falters. But then week after week, we just see an ENCE, a squad that really just comes together. And after every game, you can actually see the improvement in the game. And last week, when we saw ENCE, they looked at their best. And that is why I'm afraid of Nordavind that looked at their worst yesterday.
And what is ENCE's strength? Like, what are they doing well?
I think one of the major things about ENCE is that they have a really strong team fighting, especially around neutral objectives. They have really good decision making as well. So as a unit, when it comes to these really important decisions in the game, ENCE all seem to be on the same page at the same time, and that really aids. And something that's been really I think noticeable about their play in the wins that they've had has just been how good their mid to late game team fighting and decision making has been, especially when they have Jefe on the Bard, where he's able to have those big engages and those big influences in the team fights. So I think I think that's to me has been one of ENCE's biggest strengths.
And in all honesty, I feel like Jefe is a big part in the team. He's the one that's gonna get the shot calling in. Like, there was a specific moment where he literally reaches on the other side of the map to catch the enemy ADC with the Bard, and that was insane because they were focusing an Elder Dragon down, and suddenly they're all over on the other side of the map catching the enemy ADC. You don't necessarily see this playmaking for supports, at least in this league right now. And also Kevo has been stepping up so much. You give this guy a kill, he's ready to move forward, be the front line, and he just doesn't die. He knows exactly where to move, exactly what to do, and it's actually very, very impressive from the end spot lane.
Yeah, speaking about the bot lane, they've been really good at making plays together with Taiki Su. Every time that we see them on the blue side, they're really good at getting wave priority, crashing in on the third wave, get in there, counter jungling, getting Taiki a lead. With that lead, he's able to stabilize Nilla. Once Nilla is stabilized and can do whatever he wants, he's really good at getting individual resources. But he's up against Mummers, and while Nordavind has been looking quite weaker yesterday, I think Mummers is still one of these guys that didn't really fall behind, right? He was still just on weak side duty. So I think it's still going to be a challenge for the ENCE squad. I don't think Nordavind was at their best yesterday, and I don't think we're going to see them at that again.
Well, we all did throw our opinions into the ring here. Let's have a little look at the predictions to see how everybody on today's show is kind of what we're going for. Pretty much everybody going Nordavind in this game.
Okay, guys.
Trouble, why ENCE?
Listen, they destroyed my 100% week last week, okay? I didn't have one day 100% predictions. I almost have 100% week predictions. And I'm like, fine, ENCE, if you're gonna be spoiler, you better be spoiler from now on in general. So yeah, easy for ENCE.
To be fair, we all thought, you know, Nordavind were going to win yesterday, and then Team Singularity were able to get themselves the win and the big upset of this group. So this could very realistically be an ENCE game, like Gobble was saying as well. They've been on the up and up. We'll have to see whether or not it is going to be enough. But for the moment, the rest of us are very much in Nordavind's camp as far as these predictions go.
Yeah, I do think, even though we saw some weaknesses in Nordavind, I do genuinely believe they are the better team. I just think their solo laners shine that much harder than those from ENCE, and although I think ENCE as a unit is a really, really good package, I don't think we're going to see Nordavind falter as much as we did yesterday. I genuinely believe they're the better team and they should win here.
Well, for their sake, you really hope they do. They don't want to get a 0-2 week, especially when things are getting, as Orcs would say, as dicey as things are getting in the standings at the moment. But before that, we do have to cut to a quick break. And when we're back with Champ Select in the game. So we will see you in a second.
Nothing is as it seems. I feel like I'm in a dream, but that's where I wanna be. And I feel free for the first time. And I feel free for the first time. For the first time. For the first time. For the first time. And I feel free for the first time. And I feel free for the first time.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NLC as we're getting ready to go into game number 1 of the day. Nordavind versus ENCE. Nordavind on the blue side, ENCE on the red side, and we're starting out with the Bard ban.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's something that Stefe has played a ridiculous amount of. You heard us talk about it before in the pre-game. His influence is huge when he's on a champion like Bard, and they don't want to deal with it. Nordavind, get rid of it.
I was expecting Trouble just to jump in there as soon as she saw this Bard pick. Obviously, Sefa really fond of this pick, and we've seen how dangerous he can be, not only as a single individual, but how he can take the whole ENCE as a squad with the decision making on his magical journeys. That is just Sefa on a champion should ban Bard, and now we actually see blue side Karthus ban coming in here again, which means that Nordavind might not be preferring that Karthus in this draft.
Yeah, thinking how Karthus can be flexed down the bot lane as well. Crispec is just not the type of player that would pick up a Karthus and just sit there and farm over and over again. So I understand why that would be a blue side ban, but then it does hurt you significantly because you have to leave something else open. But you know what? You're on blue side. You can just trade whatever you want. Now, I would like to see a respect ban on Mumus's Wukong, because he has been so extremely strong on it, and every team we see playing against Nordavind usually bans it out.
Well, there goes the Ashe. We have seen a lot of Ashe as of recent weeks. Obviously, the ability to set up the lanes with the engages of the Ashe Arrow and have pretty good range in lane. The fresh ban, pretty standard as well, going to get taken away. And ENCE looking for their final ban.
Yeah, and now we're looking at this Thresh takeaway. Obviously, Kevo is the embodiment of an Astral player. He loves that champion. And with the resources left open in this draft, Syndra is still not banned on this red side. So it's actually, Syndra left through. So they're looking to either trade the Syndra for the Astral here, so Kevo will get comfort, or they're just not going to take either.
I'm sure, surely you can take Ezreal here, because Crispec is such an unbelievably good Ezreal player. And as is Kevo.
No?
I mean, he was 3-0 yesterday.
But like, one performance aside, Crispec is kind of known. Crispec's kind of known. Yeah, I know. But he's kind of known for his Ezreal, right? Like,
yeah,
I feel like it's a really hot pick between both of these teams.
In all honesty, if I was Crispec and I had to choose, I would go Aphelios every single time. This guy is like the 1v9 star. I feel like he shines more when he's left on his own device to farm the history items, and then he starts popping off in the team fights. Now, what really concerns me is how we said that Kevo is like an unbelievably good Ezreal player. So I want to see what Nordavind has in store for that, because it's not like I'm just not sure what ADC and what composition you'll put against it to try and push the lane. Now, maybe if you flex the Karma down bot lane, you could take the advantage there, but yeah.
Ezreal, and then we're thinking about another big playmaking support in the form of Rakan, which is huge because has that same kind of influence in roams and teamfight potential. If Nolty locks in Nidalee...
Don't do it.
This actually, like, I've given Nolty a lot of criticism in the past, but Nidalee is one of his best champions, and he was known for Nidalee in solo queue and in the previous UK seasons. Phillies, never mind. But Nidalee is something that I think
there's still room for it.
Don't talk about hovers. I know, but I was excited because Nolty's Nidalee is actually something that is very strong.
For me, there's two champions I think of Nolty. I think of Elise and I think of the Nidalee. So both of those are technically open. Which one do we think would be more blind pickable here? Because I assume we're going to see the jungler get picked up. Actually, Syndra left open, so Ericsson's just going to get that.
Yeah, I don't think it was going to be a jungle here, because since the Syndra is up, you just kind of want to make sure you're taking the strongest pick right now. Now, Syndra in the mid lane is kind of dodgy at this point because they have nerfed the Q. It costs a lot more mana, so it will be hard for him to sort of spam and harass the opponent out of lane. You have to be much more careful with it. So we'll have to wait and see how Ericsson plays this out, and of course what will be against it, because I'm expecting to start banning either mid lanes that go against Syndra or junglers from here on.
Yeah, I think Syndra is one of those picks that is banned on red side for a reason, because it is just so good in the mid lane as a blind, plus that flexibility down to bot lane. But it's not something that I'd expect Crispec to play, so that's maybe why it wasn't prioritized as early on in the draft. And the interesting thing is Karma priority. I can't get my head around the Karma priority. I'm trying to work out why that is why it's so highly contested as a first pick on blue side.
So here's the thing, right? With Karma, you can flex a top, a mid, and bot. So you got a triple flex in your hands, and it's not just the triple flex, you got triple priority. So whichever side your jungler chooses to play from, you sort of swap around the Karma wherever it suits you, and you take priority that way. So he has insanely big wave clear in the early game, plus the shields and the movement speed can keep her safe during the laning phase. So knowing how Nordavind like to play and knowing how they choose to free Nolty, because when he's sort of caged into a matchup that he's not very happy playing in, you kind of need the priority lanes to sort of guide you through.
So we have a little bit of a bug for some of our viewers and us here, so we can't actually see champ select, but luckily Orcs is feeding us all the information we need to know. The final rotation for ENCE was a Wukong, and then they banned out the Malphite, and ENCE have banned away a Mordekaiser as well, while over on Nordavind, they've banned away a Galio, so there's one more ban to go. Gonna see what that is, and what do you think maybe is left open? What's next bannable here?
They're probably just banning out mid lane matchups that either have global impact. Aurelia ban. That's a Nile ban specifically. Obviously, we know Nile to be like an incredible Aurelia player. You might have watched it in the Nordic Championships.
Do it, baby, do it. Don't even think about it. Lock it in.
Do think about it, but it definitely is something to consider. I do like the Twisted Fate though. It's got that global presence. There we go, Twisted Fate.
Yeah, I was going to say, we just learned earlier this draft, don't talk about hovers. And Kevo here just tempting us with the stat pick that obviously
that is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously he did get a small buff on his Shadow with the missile speed, but apparently not enough for Simply to choose. And remember, Simply so fond of this Twisted Faith. By far his favorite champion. He's been playing it a lot, and it's been banned against him multiple times. So understand that they're going with comfort. Now they know that the Syndrome is mid lane here, and they're actually locking it in with a weak side from Mummers here on the on the GP.
I'm assuming this is going to be Wukong top because of the bans of the Malphite and the Mordekaiser. We still are yet to see Jungle. Jungle last pick, like, seemingly in both sides. Now, there's going to be a Gragas locked in. We have not touched on it, but Predator did just get some changes on the last patch. Nolty is a very competent Gragas jungle player. I'm glad it wasn't something like the Nidalee or the Graves, just because I think they need a bit more of a front line with this comp right now with the rest of the units, the rest of the champions that they've got.
And I'll be very disappointed if that is not a Trundle last pick or something like a Jarvan. You've got two immobile carries on the side of Nordavind. They're gonna choose to go with the Queen.
What?
Counter pick top lane. Okay, this is global central right here. You will see Simply and Nile all around the map. This is probably an Ignite Queen. She wants to destroy the gangplank, not allow any air. And remember, in the mid lane on Ericsson, it's an immobile AP carry. That means that the second Queen leaves the lane, you gotta respect and back off.
But this is so cheeky to your right, because you will have the lane priority with this Queen, and you will be able to punish this. This could have easily been a Lucian 2 top lane against the GP. GP just in general, not very fond of these AD carries up in the top side. Now, the thing is, the main frontline engage from ENCE right now is the Rakan and the Wukong. So if these two people fall behind, or let's say that the Syndra get extremely fat in the early game, it's really hard to get in there and make an engage. You rely completely on playing the map.
I need to reiterate exactly what Goldbug just mentioned. This is a 1-3-1 comp or a split push comp, or they have to get incredibly far ahead with Snowball through the Nile top side on the Quinn. Otherwise, I genuinely just think this comp's going to fall apart as the game goes on. Like, this has to be either snowballed, or they have to exert side lane pressure, or this just isn't winning.
It's a very, very spicy draft, and I thought if anyone was going to lock in the Quinn, it would be coincidence, but I guess not. It is going to be Nilly. Now we're going to pass it over to our casters to break this game down. So we're going to pass it over to Medic and Orcs.
Thank you very much, HitBrain. We are good to go. Orcs, it's a pleasure to join you here on the NLC caster desk. I'm really looking forward to the games. I will admit, yesterday when I was watching some of them, perhaps I had my head in my hands a few times, but we'll see what the quality of game to play is today.
Yeah, I mean, particularly here where, I mean, yesterday aside, Nordavind's been a really solid team, and ENCE has definitely been on an upswing. I feel like they are the team in their group who's grown the most. We've seen Riddle, we've seen XL, floundering a bit. I'm really hyped for ENCE.
I think it's going to be a really interesting match, and it does have playoff implications, of course, because Nordavind dropping yesterday means that if ENCE win here, they actually tie up with Nordavind in win-loss. I believe the last time they met, it was Nordavind who took the win. I'm just going to check that to make sure. Yeah, so they would equalize that head-to-head as well, which means that second spot very much up for grabs. But we are on to Summoner's Rift. We've heard what the analysts have said about these drafts. Is there anything that you really want to highlight early on, Orcs, about either of these team compositions?
I just think the main thing is to highlight the importance of this Twisted Fate. I feel like obviously they picked this safe bot lane in the Ezreal Rakan, something that can withstand pressure, but it's not going to really be able to do much to contest this Karma Aphelios, which scales so well. And they're really looking towards the mid laner to open up the map. You're going to have Nilly, who wants to play aggressive, who wants to shove up. You're going to have a bot lane who doesn't want to be threatened, or at least even better, wants to challenge Chrisberg. And the TF is the key. So I think the mid jungle matchup is going to be really important here. And for those of you who watched yesterday, you'll know this. If you didn't, Nulty had an awful game in the jungle, so he really needs to be on point this game, or they could just fall apart.
I think that's going to be really interesting to watch, actually, because Nulty, he was the key player on Nordavind that really struggled yesterday. And Taiki, I mean, I watched this guy when he was on Team Forge all the way back in like 2016, 2017. He was always an aggressive jungler. He was always in your face. And Wukong is a champion that can get into the enemy jungle, can look for those counter ganks. We'll see if Taiki is able to keep Nulty under wraps of this game. But of course, later on in the game, all eyes will be on Chrisberg and Kevo, two very strong carries for their team. Here is the typical Ezreal Aphelios matchup. And a lot of this matchup is just defined by jungle ganks, right? Usually you're both pretty safe in the lane. I'm interested to see if Sefe can have an impact on this Rakan early on.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to see Sefe roaming about and making an impact with his TC. But the problem in this situation is you're against a double range matchup, and it's a Karma of all the champions, and it's pretty difficult to find priority there. They actually do have priority level 1, so this indicates that Chrisberg and Bebop Bully, potentially cautious about being ganked, aren't willing to shove out, and they're happy just playing this safe because there isn't pressure on Chrisberg and Bebop. They are happy to scale up in the later stages, and they're not too concerned about having to win the 2v2 as Kevo might be, because obviously Ezreal, you want to have that lead over the Aphelios. You want to be hitting your spikes sooner.
I think you can even see that sort of lack of concern from their summoner style choice, right? Going for the barrier instead of heal on the AD carry and no exhaust on your support just kind of means, like, if we're going to get jumped on, we just want to be able to mitigate the initial burst. Like, we don't want to get killed straight away and then we can flash out if we need to. We're not looking to get into the action, try to exhaust you, trying to be a little bit more aggressive in the lane. Instead, we're just looking to survive and scale up on that AD carry. I do want to talk a little bit, though, because we have a moment here, Orcs. I want to pick your brain, because over the last couple of days, we've seen a ton of Karma priority from all the teams in the NLC. I think we've seen one game where it wasn't picked or banned. And it's really strange to me to see it, because it does give you some pressure in the lane, but there are just so many other champions that I'd put priority on. Like in this draft, I would have picked Syndra first instead of going for Karma early on. Can you elucidate a little bit about why this Karma might be picked so early on in these drafts?
So I think specifically in this situation, it's the value of the priority in this game. We talked a lot about the Ezreal, the analyst did on the desk, and Ezreal really struggles into the Karma because one of the issues with Ezreal as a champion is you're not great at shoving the lane in, and when you're up against the likes of the Karma, they can dictate where the wave is going to be. So I think that's the important aspect. And then on top of that, it's the scaling. A lot of teams have been willing to lean into the later stage of the game. You're even willing to sacrifice dragons because you know as long as they're not getting the soul, you're not concerned. And I think that's why you're seeing priority in champions like this, especially when Karma, even in the early skirmishes, is still relevant. If Nulty gets into a fight, Bebop Bully will often have priority. He can run over, he can shield Nulty and put him in a comfortable spot. So I think it's specifically for these teams looking at the carries, which have been Chrisberg and Kevo. And that's why I feel like it was such a high priority here.
It makes a lot of sense. It gives you that extra utility and extra support as the game goes on as well, of course. We'll see if Bebop Bully is able to utilize it to its full effect, because I believe it has lost 2 out of 3 of the games that we've seen it in over the last couple of days. However, early on, we saw Nile getting pushed out of the top lane just a tad. He deliberately pushed the wave in, trying to keep Momus locked underneath his turret, but Momus, with his parlays, was just able to heal himself up, and he was able to harass and then heal himself up with the oranges. A little bit of a trade here in the bottom lane. The Infernum on Chrisberg makes it quite difficult for Kevo and Sefe to trade effectively. I do like Sefe going for the Guardian. I think it's a really good choice here on the Rakan. I've seen a lot of supports erring away from Guardian after the movement speed was taken off it. And of course, the movement speed was a big nerf for Rakan. Like, having that extra movement speed just made you so much stronger. But I still think it's much better than Aftershock in a lane where you're likely to get harassed.
Yeah, and I think as well, Aftershock, I mean, if you're not going to be able to engage, it's not got much value, and it's also very selfish. It's very much around you, whereas Guardian, it's going to help you in those short trades, and also give you a lot of value. But Nalty, it's a dashed away. Twisted
I
Fate
love
coming
the
in.
Destiny. Yeah, the Destiny coming in, and there's the blast going to use the cross, but already Crispberg's been caught off towards the bottom side of the fight. He's exhausted. He's healed up as well as he flashes away. Nalty forced down towards the bottom side of the map as simply looks for that second gold card. Can't land it, but the dragon is secured. Ericsson, though, immediately comes in and gets first blood for Nordavind. Ends up being a dragon for a kill. And Nordavind are the ones to get the first kill on the board.
So I'd still say it's a favorable trade for ENCE there, getting the dragon, denying it away from Nordavind, especially when Nalty invested so much time into taking that down. You actually see he's down in levels as a result. But given that fierce blood over to Ericsson, never a good feeling, especially when we highlight how important the Twisted Fate is. If Ericsson starts to get ahead of the curve, there won't be that roaming potential. So it was a nice response by ENCE, but Ericsson finds that window now.
Oh, Mummus. Yeah, okay, that was just really bad from there. Like, he jumped in, he thought he could trade because the minion wave was there, but Mummus just walks up at him, cannon barrages, and then uses the parlay.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but this isn't how the lane match should be going. You know, Mummus has been having a fine old time just farming up, and that is bad. If you're playing the Quinn into the gangplank, you should be looking to pressure, you should be looking to deny. So the fact that Mummus was doing okay is pretty rough for ENCE, but him getting a solo kill is just a really bad mistake from Lily. That should never be happening in that situation. You picked the Quinn, you put the Wukong into the jungle specifically so you could have a good lane matchup, and the fact that Mummus is now ahead of you is a very bad omen.
It really is. The Mummus, highest level in the game, tied up with Ericsson. He's farmed up pretty well. Got the Sheen first, and Grasp, of course, on this gangplank makes it so much safer in the laning phase. You can see ENCE have decided to go for the swap, usually around the 7.5 minute mark. We see this so that you can go to Rift Hold. And with Dragon being down, you really don't lose too much on the bottom side of the map here, right? Like, Nile can just come in here, farm up the wave as it gets pushed in, and Kevo is able to catch top wave. So I like the rotation, perhaps a tiny bit early and kind of forced by the fact that Nile lost out in the 1v1. But for now, ENCE are making the correct macro moves.
Yeah, my concern here, though, is that we see Nordavind build up a big wave to crash in the tower, so they're going to be able to get some damage on the plates. And Mummus being a gangplank, you're going to have that cannon barrage available in not too long. So if ENCE do go for a play where they're trying to pressure the tower, it becomes so much more difficult. And now we see Nalty, with that wave being there, is leaning in and trying to apply some pressure to Nilly. But we actually see Seth has made a roam down, so potentially a counter count could come in here, especially with Simply in the vicinity.
Yeah, Simply does still have teleport, so he can get into this fight pretty quickly, but it looks like Nalty's just trying to ward Seth away until that second plate goes down. Now that Seth is here, I really don't expect him to dive this. And the big question for ENCE becomes, how much can you get out of the Rift Herald, right? Because this is a known trade. You expect this sort of thing to happen, you now get the Rift Herald. If you can get more than 2 plates out of it, you can say that that was worth for you. But you really need to be able to get that gold, especially onto someone like Nile, because otherwise he is just going to fall behind this gangplank.
Yeah, you want to get that momentum. He wants to be able to threaten Mummus in the side lane. And importantly as well, we might go for another.
Yeah, I mean, Ericsson's coming across here as well. So they're investing a lot of time into this. Simply does have Destiny, but they're just looking for more plates. And this makes it even better for Nordavind, just in terms of total trade out of this swap from ENCE.
And you can see they have about 1,000 gold lead off this already, so pretty heavy. Ericsson, nice stun just to dissuade them from looking for potentially an all-in. And at this point, it's a bit concerning, the goal difference for ENCE. They need to get value out of the Herald, as you were saying, and importantly also is open up the map. You're playing a composition where you have great roaming solo laners in the Quinn and the Twisted Fate. You have a really good 1-3-1 later on with a safe bot lane who can hold mid. You want the map to be as open as possible, so it's going to be an important decision for Taiki where he wants to throw down this Herald, because one big problem whenever you're facing a gangplank composition is if you build up a wave, it can just be eliminated from across the map.
Cannon Barrage can do a huge amount of work. I also am really anticipating this first gank from Taiki. Like, the combination of Cyclone and quickness is so powerful, but if Nalty's in the right position, disengage potential from an explosive cast is just as powerful, right? If you see Taiki jumping in and immediately he gets cast out, you just nullify anything that the Wukong can do in that fight. So the first sort of gank, the first sort of play around that is going to be really intriguing to me, and we'll see where Taiki decides to take it. At the moment, ENCE are trying to get some control of this bottom side river, but they haven't cleared out the wards, and so it makes it a lot harder for Simply to roam around and perhaps look for a Destiny gank.
See, Seth is actually positioned here. They might look for something bot lane if Seth sees the opportunity going with the quickness. At the moment, having that vision control, I think there's a control ward you can see in that brush just below mid lane that does set Simply up to move down. So if there's a moment where Nordavind's bot lane do step up, potentially soon, they could end up getting punished, and that gives you the opportunity to translate into that tower or potentially the dragon. And I think that's something important to highlight as well, is that there's a lot of scaling elements on Nordavind, the Gangplank, the Philios, the Karma in particular. So you have to be concerned about those, and dragon can be a win condition.
Explosive Cast can come back here in mid lane as Simply eats the unleashed powers but is able to walk away. Nolty a little bit quick on the trigger coming out of that bush meant that Simply didn't go all in onto the Syndra, and meant that Simply was able to escape. Dragon taken now by ENCE, but Nordavind are looking for a gank on this Quinn. They don't want her getting any more farm. It's going to be dived underneath this tower, but immediately pops the ult and will just walk away.
Yeah, we're going to play for the trouble.
Fly away.
Well, yeah. We're going to play for the trouble, nothing much more than that. And to me, this would be a window that you could potentially look to apply pressure on the other side of the map, making use of that Herald, because it is only got a minute left on it. So Taiki needs to find somewhere to place it down. And I think bot seems to be the obvious option. You know Nolty is just on the top side. You already have the priority. You know Twisted Fate can lean down. And I can't highlight enough that ENCE need to find some momentum in this game, because being down in gold at this point is concerning.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but here comes the Destiny, here comes the quickness, and here goes Chrisberg using the barrier underneath the turret, but the Graviton's going to lock him up for the moment. Kevo pushed away as well, but Taiki coming in with a Cyclone. Ericsson takes the first kill onto Simply, and now they're looking for more as Taiki falls. 2 for 0 already in favor of Nordavind, and Kevo is not in a good spot. Bebop Bully, that's a difficult name to say quickly, will jump in. Ericsson gets a double, and that is disastrous for ENCE. They're not going to be able to use the Rift Herald unless they just pop it down in base. They weren't able to get the fight they were looking for, and they're going to lose more plates on this bot lane tower.
And it's just more gold going into the pockets of these carries. Ericsson and Chrisberg loving that situation. Chrisberg getting another plate there, and we'll get to see the replay. And ultimately, it was just a bit out of sync. The CST comes in initially from Seth, and then Simply follows up with the stun card, but Taiki's just not even there. The minion wave dies from the cannon barrage, and there's just nothing left. The Karma shield's enough to keep Chrisberg alive. Remember, we talked about earlier, they have heal and barrier for him, so a hard dive to pull off, and ultimately ends up backfiring massively. They've now essentially going to have to just make use of this poor Herald placement mid. They should be able to get the 2 plates, but not likely to get anything more than that.
So they're actually super fortunate / Nordavind misplayed slightly here, in my opinion, because of the reset timers, right? You know the Herald goes down, and then Nordavind reset as the Herald's about to charge in, giving up more of this than they should have done, in my opinion. I think it's one of those plays, it's not bad from Nordavind, but I think if they had just staggered their resets a little bit more, ENCE wouldn't have been able to get as many plates as they did there in the mid lane. But for the moment, Nordavind are in a dominant position, as you say. They have really strong team fight as the game goes on. They're 4,000 gold ahead right now. 1,000 of that sits on their Aphelios. 1,000 lead sits on Syndra, on Ericsson in the mid lane as well. And Nile on this Quinn, who was meant to be able to harass down the Gangplank, is 800 gold behind. He's in an awful situation. And ENCE's composition is going to take a long, long time before it can really do anything.
And that's the problem, is that, you know, Gangplank scales so well. If you can't answer him in the side lane, that 1-3-1 element to your composition just is no longer relevant. We have a dragon coming up in 2 minutes, and I feel like Nordavind is super comfortable to fight that one, and as soon as they take it, it's kind of like the Dragon Soul win condition goes out the window, because it's delaying it by 5 minutes, and then when you get to the next one, it's still going to be hard to teamfight Nordavind, and it's just going to carry on and carry on. So for me, I think ENCE need to find a good rotation in a pick, and then they need to be able to get the dragon off of that and threaten the soul, because right now things are looking really dire for their composition.
And when you look for picks like that, you have to think about where they're setting up their vision control, right? At the moment, ENCE have vision control of the bot side jungle, right? The red buff of Nordavind is warded with the control ward. Taiki's now down there, but Nordavind are just playing on the other side of the map. All that Momus has to do is say, okay, well, I'm not going to push up in this lane. In fact, he backs and then just joins his team, and it makes it very difficult for ENCE to find a pick. As long as Nordavind play weak side correctly, ENCE have to force something rather than find something in this game.
And there's that huge tool, the cannon barrage. As soon as you feel like there's too much pressure for you to step up, Mummus throws it down. That big setup that we saw from ENCE where they had 2 members moving bot side is for nothing. And the thing is, because they're scared to face Nordavind head on, they end up sacrificing the top side of the map, which is where the Herald is. And in return, all ENCE are going to get is a little bit of damage on this bot tower and a little bit of vision around this dragon, which now Nordavind have reset. They're just going to head straight over and clear this out. 40 seconds till that dragon spawns.
And they have such a good timing on this as well, Orcs, because they just got the Rift Herald. So if you want, you want prio, you want to push up lanes before you look towards going towards that dragon, Rift Herald does that for free, right? You chuck it down in mid, ENCE then have to answer it. And if ENCE don't, you get a tower, and it's not sole point yet. Like, you're still only on 2 dragons, so losing out on this mountain dragon isn't actually the end of the world for you. You can see ENCE now realizing they need to do something, but the wild card expires as Simply steps forward. He can't get the stun onto Nolty, and now Nordavind can just regain control of this river. There's a good ward there, just that's going to catch out Mummus. There's a Cyclone as well. Nolty's going to flash away. Mummus still very healthy, and the True Shot Barrage does chunk out Nolty. So Nordavind's jungler is down to about half HP. I'd love to see him put down the Rift Herald here, but Simply's going in with the Destiny down towards the bottom side, and Chrisberg has been caught out. The barrier comes out, he's exhausted, but there's the Infernum, and there's the Moonlight Vigil, and Taiki's almost dead, but the shutdown comes down. Here's Nolty coming in from the side, and Ericsson's going to join the fight as well. Mummus has already taken out Taiki. Neil is going to get healed up. Ericsson jumps forward, though, and there's the Unleashed Power. Now it's a 4v3. Nolty coming in. Can't quite land at the knock-up onto Simply, but it doesn't even matter. Nolty will take the kill. Nordavind will take the fight, and that Dragon Soul has been delayed for him.
And you could just feel the desperation coming out from ENCE there. You saw how just headstrong they were. They needed a pick. They needed to force a fight. And although they got it on a Chrisberg, the Infernum did so much damage. Mummus with the beautiful barrel chain did so much. And then there's also just the gold lead from Nordavind. It was a desperate situation for ENCE. They weren't able to execute because, I mean, in all honesty, it was difficult for them to pull that fight off. And now, losing this dragon, it's really just cutting down their win conditions. The split push from Nilly, no longer really a thing. The Dragon Soul delayed by 5 minutes. You're 5,000 gold down. ENCE need a miracle.
They really do. They're behind in terms of itemization as well. Infinity Edge already complete on Chrisberg into a stacking up Manamune for Kevo. You've got a Rod of Ages on 3 stacks for Simply. Completed Ludens already sitting on Ericsson. So in terms of just the state of the game, Nordavind are incredibly happy. They're in a really good spot. And I want to remind people what we talked about at the start of the game. Like, this had a huge playoff implications, this game. Like, ENCE lost against Nordavind last time. This was their chance to equalize their win-loss with Nordavind. But if Nordavind win this, they are at least a win ahead of anyone else in their group in terms of getting that second place spot. So Nordavind now can look towards the rest of the season, assuming they win this, and be pretty happy that they're going to make top 2 in their group.
Oh, Simply misclick on the stopwatch there.
That was deliberate. It's sending the enemy a message. And that message is, you're probably going to die next time you get jumped on.
Great message to send. I think it'd probably be true even with the stopwatch, but definitely doesn't help things. And I mean, I think as well for Nordavind in this situation, it's a big confidence boost because first round Robin, they only lost to XL, which was huge. But then coming into the start of the second round Robin, you lose to Singularity with 0 wins. I think going into today, there was a lot of expectations that maybe this is the start of Nordavind's demise. But in this game, they've shown they are back on their normal form, trying to show that the Singularity game was an exception. And they are this consistent team who's going to be picking up these wins. And now they are throwing down that Herald mid. ENCE not in really a good position to contest this one, but you can see Taiki potentially hunting for a flank on this Wukong.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a fight right now because Simply has the teleport, and you can see Nile coming up through the river as well. The Rift Herald is used just before it expired, but here comes the Destiny, and Chrisberg's going to get caught out with a stun card, but immediately they just turn onto the Twisted Fate, and Chrisberg happily gobbles up that kill. Moonlight Vigil comes out on Kevo, not going to do too much, but Graviton will lock him down for the second, and Nordavind will get the turret and a kill and a 5,000 gold lead.
Just beautiful play there, especially Nolty's cast instantly disengaging Taiki, and it just felt like ENCE were out of sync, and mostly because of the movements of Nordavind. They all grouped together, moved up towards the TF to collapse, the disengage from Nolty was there, and the end result was the ENCE engage just wasn't able to be pulled off.
Just, whenever I see a Twisted Fate destinying in before the engages really happened, I'm entirely concerned for that player. They know you don't have stopwatch because you used it in front of them a couple of moments ago. Yeah, you could have pulled a Messiah, right? You could have stopwatched as soon as you came out of it. But Didn't work out for ENCE this time. Didn't work out for Simply, who is 0-3-1. Good synergy with Taiki there in terms of his scoreline. And now with Spellbinder complete on Ericsson and the Runan's Hurricane complete on Chrisberg, Nordavind are looking in a very strong position. I think Momus might be double Ruby Crystal. Where's he going with that?
Potentially a Sterak's, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking. But I'm not 100% sure if he goes Sterak's second. I mean, it gives you some tankiness, right? Like, and it makes it harder for you to get one deeged by this ENCE composition. But I don't think ENCE are going to be able to burst anyone right now.
I guess maybe the thought process is there isn't much of a frontline on Nordavind. I mean, even the Gragas is obviously AP, so maybe he wants to be a bit more bulkier, able to charge forwards, and bare minimum, just the Ruby Crystals alone are a nice pickup, even if maybe you don't transition them both into an item immediately.
When you're this far ahead in terms of gold, you're in a pretty darn good position. A minute left on the Mountain Dragon. That would be the fourth dragon of the game. Almost a 5,000 gold lead for Nordavind. They're just knocking on these tier 2 turrets. Top lane seems to be where it is. Chrisberg's going to go in with the Severum and the Crescendum. We'll be able to burn through this incredibly rapidly. Best guns in the game to get through towers. That's it. The fourth one of the matchup going over to Nordavind.
And I just want to praise Momus for his play during this game because he's played so well on the weak side. You know, you just see Taiki leaning up towards there. You can see a lot of top laners feeling confident in that situation. We're so far ahead. You step up, you get dive, and that's a window back into the game for ENCE. But instead, he plays back. He's willing to sacrifice the turret, and it just really means that ENCE aren't able to pick much up. Although now, as I'm saying this...
Here we go. Destiny coming in. Momus is going to use the oranges to try and get out of that one, but the stun comes out. He doesn't actually eat his oranges. Momus pops down the cannon barrage and is taken out by ENCE. Shut down for Nile. Kevo's going to use True Shot Barrage in the mid lane, but I'm not really sure what he's trying to do here. Maybe just get mid cryo to make sure that Nordavind couldn't push in for the tier 2. But Nordavind's eyes are well and truly set on that dragon. Stefa and Kevo, what? No, you don't do this. Why are you trying to engage 2v4? This is just foolish play. They're very fortunate that they didn't die. Simply's going to come in from the side here as well, and Nordavind might be forced off the dragon, but I feel that was poor decision-making there from ENCE.
I mean, I agree, and now you have no Cyclone on the Wukong, no quickness on the Rakan. You don't have any of the tools you need to deal with this. I think Nordavind can go here.
I think they can definitely fight this. No Unleashed Power, though, for Ericsson. The Moonlight Vigil is available for Chrisberg. Noti has the explosive cast. There's the Moonlight Vigil, and it's stolen away. Noti walks in, didn't even smite. Unless that's a bug with Spectator, but he was able to secure it.
Yeah, not sure what actually took it in the end there, but ultimately he managed to get it. So even though ENCE find the pick, even though they have this set up on the objective, they still end up losing it and still 2 dragons away from that soul. And by that point, you know, you're talking 33 minutes into the game. I don't think you win out against the likes of Aphelios at that point, or the likes of this Gangplank, who is just being able to farm up in the side lane.
The thing with Momus is that he is really strong, and I think that we haven't talked about him as much because he hasn't been the focus of action, but his cannon barrage does a huge amount in the fights. However, the one player you didn't mention there, Orcs, is Ericsson on this Syndra. He has a 10-stack Medjais, he's got a Spellbinder and a Luden. And if I'm worried about anyone on Nordavind right now, I'm thinking, well, an Unleashed Power basically kills any of us, or at least takes us out of the fight, right? Where's the magic resist on ENCE? There's Merc Treads.
A null magic on Taiki?
Yeah,
it's
exactly,
not much.
right? Like, they have no magic resist. And I actually, I think Ericsson could have gone just for an Oblivion Orb pick here to make it basically true damage that he's doing with his ultimate, but his build so far is working out for him, and Nordavind are going to get the push in the mid lane. Momus once again playing weak side of the map, but Kevo and Stefe just have to try and defend, have to try and hold out for a little while here. And the ENCE have to work out a way that they can find a pick or find a fight that is advantageous for them.
And it is nice that they have been, you know, relying on Nili in the side lane. He has actually managed to overtake Momus in level, so that's something, but this should have been the game plan a lot sooner. Your hope was to try and get this Quinn ahead, and now being in this situation, it's like you're buying time, but all the time that you buy is just giving more opportunities for Nordavind to scale up.
Exactly, right? When the enemy scales better than you, buying time is kind of the enemy of what you want to do. It's the antithesis of what you want to do. But ENCE, the only thing they can do now is try and get some vision control, get a pick. When you're behind, it's so difficult to get control of an area. You can see Stefe sitting on a ward, unable to sweep it out right now because his oracles is down. He'll go back, get a couple of control wards, but he's going to be stopped by Nolty, who is having none of this right now. Not willing to let Stefe go back and reset.
Now Nordavind can just clear the area around the Baron, and it's very easy for them to start it up because being on blue side, when you go into the Dragon Pit, you can just easily pull out again. It's a lot harder on red side where you end up trapped against the wall if you do so. So I feel like Nordavind could just play for this Baron, just repeatedly set up for it, force ENCE to face check, throw things like the Destiny out to at least check if they're doing the Baron, and eventually the end result is you force a fight that you're just almost guaranteed to win with this gold advantage.
And because Nile doesn't have teleport, right, you're forcing a fight where it's a 5v4, at least for the start of it. Nile's already backing now. He's looking to get into this fight. But yeah, the Baron's already down to 5,000 HP. Nordavind going to try and burst this one before anything really happens. Here comes the Destiny. Stefe trying to get in with the quickness, but he just burns it and walks away. And Nordavind have kept that Baron aggro. Nile's on his way, 3,000 HP left on the Baron. Taiki looking for the flank position, but Kevo's been jumped on, knocked away with the explosive cast, just about able to survive. And ENCE are able to get Nordavind to disengage that Baron.
Yeah, a little bit sloppy there with the engage from Nolty. Ultimately, they didn't want a 50-50 when they're so far ahead in this game, even though the setup was right. They started it, they forced a lot of cooldowns at events, they got the Destiny, they got the quickness. They were still a bit tentative. I think I understand the hesitancy. You don't want to just give Taiki and the whole of ENCE a free way back into the game. But ultimately, Nolty's engaged a little bit off. It's hard to get on top of the Ezreal, in all honesty. That's why you take the pick, the safety. But ultimately, you don't lose much. Again, Nordavind happy to go further in the game. We're now a minute away from that dragon, which does put them on soul point. So resets come in, and they'll now be moving towards this bot side. And you can actually see Mummis on the top side of the map. He's shoving that wave in, so Nilly's not going to be a split push threat, because if he wants to go and push on the other side of the map, he's going to have to reset, catch that wave, then shove it in, and essentially just means that the only option really for ENCE is to match them around the dragon. And again, I don't think they win that.
I agree with you there. I think what I would have liked to see in the last setup is Nordavind putting Mummis down towards the bottom lane to match Nile, and then if Nile leaves, you get push, and you can always teleport into a Baron fight if it happens, right? You can even cannon barrage to affect that fight. So you kind of use the fact that this gangplank's in a really strong position, but Nile has been able to farm up relatively well. You know, he's got 50 extra CS over Mummis. He's got 2 items, Phantom Dancer and that Blade of the Ruined King complete, and now an Infinity Edge. So I wonder if it was a pure 1v1 between Mummis and Nile in a side lane, whether that gangplank would actually come out victorious.
Yeah, I think Nile should actually win the 1v1, in all honesty, at this point. But the problem is that now Nordavind, they're looking at the 3rd dragon here.
Yeah.
They're looking to force these fights, and it just isn't as relevant in them. And you see Nilly's gone to the top side to catch that wave that was shoved in, but it's just a bit too slow. You know, at this point, they've already taken the dragon, and now Nordavind can expand back over the map, get back their Baron control, and there wasn't really a window for you to do anything with that pressure. In fact, Nordavind actually just going to push mid in this situation.
Yeah, this was weak from ENCE. They all went towards the top side thinking they could set up Baron control, but you just give up pressure on the tower. You give up the wave control. There's a cannon minion here. Even the True Shot Barrage really doesn't do a dent into those minions' HP bars, and so that's another tower over to Nordavind. And Nile started his back and then was like, no, actually, I don't need to back. So now he's pushing the tower, but he could have been free hitting this tower for a good 4 or 5 seconds before this, and it would be down by now. He's going to get flanked. However, Taiki is in the area. Nolty was spotted out. Looks like with the cannon barrage coming down, Nile should just be able to walk this one out. Nolty does have the explosive cast. Nile has his flash, going to use it early on to get rid of the explosive cast. Nile jumps in, but Nolty shielded up stopwatches. Ericsson with the flash ball is able to take one. Crispur coming in from the side as well, and Taiki next on the menu almost goes down to that final Infernum, but can't quite get it, but that's the jungler out, and now the TP comes in. Nordavind are going to start up the Baron. Stefe, it's all on you, really. You got to get in there with the quickness. Kevo going to try to put some damage down as well with those Mystic shots. Taiki stayed around. Kevo hitting a bit of damage here onto Crispur. There's the quickness. Barrier immediately from Crispur, but they have stopped the Baron. Mummis, oh, he's got knocked back here. Exton has a great flank position, and Mummis takes out Kevo. The Destiny used by Simply into an intriguing position. Perhaps looking to see if he can get on towards the back of this fight. Taiki is there as well, but he's down to about 30% HP, and Ericsson almost has that unleashed power back up. Here comes Simply, looking for Nolty. Hasn't locked in a card as of yet. There's the blue one.
Not the best.
Well, it has more damage, I guess, if you want to try and burst down Nolty, but that Karma, we talked about it. Talked about how important she can be with the shield. She heals up Nolty, and that is a Baron on all 5 Nordavind players.
And I think that might just be the nail in the coffin for ENCE. You can see Nordavind knew exactly what they needed to do. Nilly was overextended. They managed to collapse with great use of the cannon barrage. And then as soon as they'd taken him out, as soon as Taiki was chunked, they knew they could set up for the Baron. And as much as it looked a bit precarious there with Nulti being on low HP, they knew they had the Karma Shields to rely on. They knew they had that safety net, and the goal difference is just so big now. I gotta commend the patience from Nordavind. I think this is more the Nordavind we've seen in the earlier weeks, where they are very by the book. They do play things out slowly, but it's very controlled. And I feel like after the first 5 minutes of this game, ENCE haven't really had an in.
Oh, Kevo just forced out. Chrisberg is a one-man wrecking. This Jugger Aphelios composition that is working out so well for them. Nile almost dies as well to the Unleashed Power. This will be the inhibitor tower in the mid lane, and that was a 4v4. Nile actually goes down to the cannon barrage. Mummus with perfect positioning on that ult to get the kill. Nordavind take the inhib in the mid lane. They have a wave stacked up top for that tier 2 if they want it, but Chrisberg could just walk forward. He's got a Mikhails to keep him safe. He's almost on his way to a Death Dance. Went Phantom Dance the third as well for the shield. Chrisberg is nigh unkillable, and Ericsson is matching him. 5-0-6, 20 stacks on the Medjais. Here's the wave in the top lane, and ENCE really can't do anything about it.
And at some point, you just have to go for the desperation fight. Unlikely you're going to win, but they are destroying the base of ENCE right now. Probably just going to reset after this inhibitor, play it safe, as Nordavind are tended to do. And ENCE, base in ruins, just there to clear out the waves. A minute 20 on that Mountain Dragon. You're talking about Chrisberg being unkillable. I think that's just a bit overkill, in all honesty.
I mean, he's got Death Dance, right? So we're done. We're done. You can never kill him. Aphelios has been repeatedly nerfed, and every now and again you get to kill him these days. But definitely not when he's sitting at 4 items with Athenes and Mikhails to back him up, with a Syndra who has Void Staff complete now as well, and with the Gragas there for some disruption. You can see ENCE, they're looking to see if they can find a fight, but with Supers pushing in top and bot, Nile is just going to get caught out. The barrels come down, Mummus swipes his scimitar, and that is another kill for him. Kevin's going to get forced here out of the fight by the cannon barrage. Like he tries to get away, but Chrisberg comes in from the side and hits him with the flamethrower. It's all done, but the stinging is Nordavind pushing their final lane.
Yeah, you don't even need the Dragon at this point. 2 members down, the huge gold lead in the Baron. They're just going to look to push an end. ENCE, they could try.
Oh, Kevo's dead. Kevo is dead. He only got hit with like 1 orb from the Unleashed Power. That's how much damage Nordavind have right now. As you say, Orcs, it's all over. It is done. Nordavind with a convincing win here over ENCE. They lock themselves decisively into second spot in that group, sitting 5-2 right now. And BCXR will be looking and wondering if they can hold on to that first spot.
And that's the big thing for Nordavind, is looking upwards, because I think after the first round robin, obviously they did lose to XL, but there was that thought that if they can improve, they continue to look better and better week on week, which they were, then they could look to challenge. But the Singularity game yesterday was the only question mark. And I think they kind of silenced that today, because this was a very convincing win over a team who'd been improving drastically, but ENCE just looked a bit lost there.
They really did. I think you said it best. We have to commend Nordavind just for their patience playing that game, because there were a few moments where it's like they could have gone a little bit too hard. They could have got a little bit too high fee. They played it simply. They scaled up, and they did a really good job. After the break, we're going to get into our second match of the day, but that's it from us for now. Make sure you stay tuned.
feeling. Sun-kissed and having fun. Ocean to summer sun.
Hello and welcome back to the NLC. We just had a pretty one-sided win for Nordavind, and honestly, coming out of yesterday, I think they probably needed that because that game versus Team Singularity was a rough one for them, and they bounced back coming into this one. Scoundrel, talk to me about Nordavind in this game.
Well, I think we actually set it up pretty nicely in the sense that we said that the solo laners from Nordavind, I think, outclassed their opposition. And I think you quite clearly saw that in ENCE and Mummus today. Look, Mummus solo killed a Quinn in lane. I'd love to get his perspective on that later, but that shouldn't happen. Like, Ericsson absolutely popped off on the Syndra. You know, he was such an important factor in this game. To me, like, this was, for the most part, solo lane difference, and it's Nordavind coming back with a vengeance after yesterday.
And in all honesty, I felt like Nordavind again went for comfort, but now they played to their win conditions, they played to their strengths. They were all individually outskilling their opponents, right? And sort of went down with their hands up. It felt like they didn't even try with the composition they were running right there. You pick a Queen for lane dominance, it doesn't work out. You pick a Twisted Fate to either go up top and show that this Queen is ahead, or you go down bottom and then you completely destroy the affiliates. They tried the latter, it just didn't work.
And honestly, it's a bit disappointing, right? ENCE finally had that upswing. We have only seen them take wins from here, really just looking like a good team. And then they play against Nordavind, who had a bad game yesterday. And really, it's just that team that they need to get over to prove that they deserve to be at the top. But when it finally comes down to it, they just don't have the level of play to show that they deserve to win against a team like Nordavind. And Nordavind, I gotta say, really looked like a clean team today.
Yeah, it felt like a lot didn't go right for ENCE, but a lot went right for Nordavind. And our play of the game, I believe, was that tower dive in the bot lane. So, Trouble, you're going to break this one down for us a little bit.
And you know what? It might have not been a very, very fancy play, but in my opinion, it was the play that solidified the entire game. Because after that, it was like, this game is over. They can't do nothing. So basically, this is where ENCE are like, okay, we're pulling the trigger towards down bot lane. These guys have quadruple defensive summoners as well as karma shields down in the bot lane. ENCE hesitate a little bit there, and Nordavind are just too quick to the trigger. There's too much survivability with the barrier, the heal, and the shields coming in from the karma. And the second Ericsson pulls the trigger to go down with that TP, he also cashes it into the double kill. So fed carries, happy carries. There you go.
Well, one of those fed happy carries. Oh my God, it's so wrong there. Was Mummus in the top lane, and we actually have him standing by for an interview. Mummus, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I bet you feel good coming out after that win. Very one-sided, and especially after yesterday's game where you did lose out to Team Singularity. Talk to me a little bit about the kind of discussion after game and kind of what you look to change from yesterday going into today.
So yesterday we lost. I was really sad. Everyone on the team was a bit depressed, but we came with the mindset that we're gonna improve from it, right? We're not gonna let that drag us down, and took that as just like more motivation to perform more for today. I think we played more confident as well today, so I think we succeeded in that.
Yeah, I think, like, speaking of kind of growth, you guys are still second in your group. Obviously, you got BTXL ahead of you. What steps do you think you guys need to take to beat out the front runners in Group A?
We are Group B, right? I always mess those up.
No, you're Group A.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
XL is in front of us. I think we have improved a lot since the last time that we have faced them. I think the next time we match them, it's going to be a lot closer. Even the last time, it was, I think, one huge mistake we did at the Dragon fight that cost us a lot, but we have been steadily improving a lot. We have improved our craft a lot since then, like a standard word to throw around. And I think next time is going to be way closer, and we're going to challenge them.
So you think you guys are going to be able to challenge XL? Are there any other teams in the standings that may challenge you? Obviously, maybe not Team Singularity, as they've already beaten you.
Singularity, had some fun with us yesterday. So they're a pretty good team. All the teams I think in the group, even the lower tiered one, like today ENCE, I think they pulled out a bit of a non-traditional strategy, which they couldn't execute too much. But even they have a lot more solid foundations now. And I think Riddle will get back in shape as well. So I think every team, even though some teams started out a bit slower, they will all like get on a good level towards the second half.
So let's go back to this game, one last thing, and talk about the solo kill in the top lane. In what world does a Gangplank kill a Quinn? Should that have happened, or was that just a misplay there? I
think it was a misplay in some sense. I was able to hit one too many barrels, and then ended up me flashing, failing the flash a bit, and not getting my passive up, but still got the kill in the end. So I was happy with that. It was a pretty sick outplay. I was watching that kind of going, how the hell did a Quinn get solo killed by you? I think you were like level 7 at the time, but even so, it was really, really good to watch. And congratulations on your win, Mumus. We'll let you go celebrate that game and celebrate in 1-1 week while we break this down. So thank you very much for joining us. So a lot of confidence, really, guys, coming out from Mumus there. He sounded, like they do feel they have a bit of growth, but they feel like they could challenge XL.
And that's really nice to see, because Nordavind are the team that I think over the course of the last few weeks we've really hyped up as the team to contest XL. I think when you look at Group A and Group B in isolation, a lot of us have kind of made the assumption and then the judgment that Group B has the stronger level of competition overall. And it's nice to see that Group A is starting to develop in its own right in that way. I absolutely love that we are seeing Nordavind grow into their own, and I'm glad they bounced back from that loss versus Singularity yesterday, because I think they are a team that can take a win off XL in the right circumstances.
I just like to hear him say that they don't really think that anyone is not a challenge. They have respect for every team, even under them, talking about how that they're actually, thinking that the team under them is going to come back, that towards this second half of the split, they're going to have their fundamentals at the right side as well. So I think I really like that even after yesterday and even after today, when it's a stomp, that they still have respect for their opponents.
I think something really interesting that Mumus talked about is how ENCE picked a very specific composition that they weren't able to execute on. I feel like Nordavind is the complete opposite, right? Nordavind go for the complete ease of execution, something that they're very familiar with, very comfortable in playing. And they're like, fine, this is what we want to play. Now we're just going to perfect that to our craft and we'll be fine.
Well, it was a solid win for Nordavind, but we still have more League of Legends to go here for today. Coming up after the break, we have Godsend versus Team Singularity. We will see you in a second.